So I've been using the LG Gram Superslim for just about a month now, and having spent some real time with it, I really wanted to dive into a longer term review of what makes this laptop so special. And off the bat, I can easily say this is an awesome choice for both students and working professionals. I personally fit into both of these buckets as an accountant during the daytime and somebody who does night courses year round in the evenings. And over the past month, I've completed assignments, I've watched movies, listened to a ton of music alongside some light gaming. In my initial review, I did go more in depth in terms of specs, and I will have that video linked above if you do want to check it out, but today I want to talk more about my day-to-day use and how it's actually worked for me. So here's a long-term review of the LG Gram Superslim from someone who's actually used it every day. Okay, so what makes the LG Gram Superslim so great? Well, it'll be a little bit different for everybody, but for myself, there's three main things that really do it for me. The first thing is easily the portability. Having a thin and light laptop is just one of those things you can't really appreciate until you've actually got a hold of one and then use it every day. And it's not just the portability. The laptop actually looks and feels great in hand, and the slim metal frame is just wildly thin and feels nice to hold. The dark blue finish holds up super well and doesn't seem to hold any sort of fingerprints. And one of the things I was really worried about is that it would scuff over time being metal and all, but so far there's been nothing 1 month later. And I won't pretend like other laptops are massive beasts or anything either, because they're really not, but simply by comparison, this one is wildly lightweight. So carrying it with me everywhere I go has been an absolute breeze. I do wish the hinge was a little bit more sturdy, but it's not something that really affects my daily use. But overall, it's built really well and it's been a pleasure to hold. So the first thing I dig the most being the build and portability. Second to that has easily got to be the OLED display. If you haven't experienced OLED yet, it's simply one of those things that you fall in love with after trying. Having literal pure blacks and rich vibrant colors makes any other display sort of seem washed out. For myself, it definitely comes down to watching content and gaming. Since I'm personally so strapped for time every day, I've finally gotten to the habit of actually scheduling time to relax, and for myself, I've recently started watching The Bear, which is actually really good. And it's not something that I can really show you on a YouTube video, but just about any content on here looks absolutely awesome, especially since it's OLED. I also really do appreciate the 1080p display coming in at 15.6 inches. It's really just overall a good size for productivity and entertainment. I do think it's the Goldilocks size for a laptop display in general. Now, apart from watching content on here though, my secondary primary use for this is definitely productivity. My daily workflow is primarily dedicated to writing and planning all my creator content in Notion alongside my accounting designation schoolwork. In everyday use too, it's actually super snappy to navigate. From having loads of browser tabs open to swapping full screen apps, I haven't really noticed any sort of slowdowns in my daily use. And since there's 3 Type-C ports, 2 of which are Thunderbolt 4, it's been really easy to use this in a desk setup since I'm not always on the go. In my desk setup, I plugged everything in using a dock and into my 5K display, and this tiny beast actually handles everything without any issues. There is a built-in fan here too when it does come to heavier workflows, but even then, when I have heard it kick in, it's super quiet, so no complaints there. Even for a laptop, it's definitely nice to have a full desk setup experience. And I can't stress it enough though, the numpad on the keyboard is straight up gold. The keyboard generally is just excellent, especially the overall size. It's like a compact, full-size layout almost. And despite me mainly using this for productivity, as a gamer, I definitely had to throw down some more games over the last month. And although it's not really meant for gaming, it still doesn't stop me, of course. I imagine if you're taking a break between classes, it's definitely a good chance to decompress. For myself, in my initial video, I dove into some basic gaming through Xbox Game Pass, which was surprisingly good, especially since it's cloud gaming. I think that mostly comes down to using the Wi-Fi 6E chip, which is actually very quick. I'm super pumped for Starfield, which I believe is coming to Game Pass on September 6th. And similar to Game Pass, using Remote Play on PlayStation 5 has been a great experience as well. I was able to hotspot my Gram no problem from this dope spot by the lake and literally play PlayStation 5. I can't imagine you do this all the time, but simply being able to do so on a beautiful OLED display is definitely a good time. And I can't say I throw down any first-person shooter games on here at all, but taking it easy on some games like Spider-Man, God of War Ragnarok, or any other cloud gaming titles will definitely be awesome on here. For any sort of native gaming, again, you're gonna likely be doing less graphically intense titles like indie games. But overall, on something so thin and light, it's still nice to be able to game. Now, the third thing that sort of rounds out why I love this laptop so much is actually the battery. When it comes down to battery, this is easily one of the best batteries I've ever used in a Windows laptop without question. And my comparative basis is my Windows work laptop, which barely gets through an entire meeting. I am half tempted to ask my IT department to let me swap out my personal Gram for work just because of the battery and the numpad alone. And when it comes to battery life, in my daily usage, I typically get about 5 to 6 hours of constant on-screen time. And even with the battery saving features enabled, I haven't really noticed any hiccups or performance issues either. Engineering wise, I have no clue how they fit a battery in here, but it's impressive nonetheless. Mileage will obviously vary depending on who you are and what your workflow is, but from the student standpoint, you'll definitely be covered for lectures and classes battery-wise. Now there is a whole ton to this laptop that's hands down amazing, but with everything great, nothing is absolutely perfect. In this case, I would have loved to see some better speakers. While they work well enough and get super loud, since they are downwards facing, they can be muffled on surfaces other than hard surfaces. The only other way I could see better speakers on here would be by making the keyboard a little bit smaller and having them on the top end. I'm not sure if I would take that trade-off. Either way, the headphone jack is there if you need it, and the speakers will still do the job. Between the insane thin and light build, the OLED display, and the pure versatility of the LG Gram Superslim, it's definitely an easy recommendation for students. From busy work to relaxation and even some gaming, this laptop is definitely a breath of fresh air when it comes down to the Windows laptop market. For myself, I'll definitely keep using this when it comes down to my accounting workload and my everyday use. If you are looking for a great student or productivity laptop, this is definitely a great option, but let me know down below in the comments, what would you be using this for? Anyways, appreciate you guys watching till the end. Till next time.